Thank you for joining me today to create this drawing. And along the way, I wanted to talk a little bit about how I used an art lawyer and to give you some tips about that. I wanted to talk today about using a lawyer for the arts because I'm often hearing artists not get paid for projects that they're doing, or with the AI situation, many artists felt just defeated, like, what can I do? I'm just a small independent artist. Walking around thinking that they have no rights for the work that they're producing. And that's really not true. So the first time I used a volunteer lawyer, there's one here in Chicago. I had worked with a client on a project, and that went smoothly and fine, no problem. And then we decided to collaborate on another project, and everything went fine and smooth until the event was over and they owed me money. So I touched base with them and they said, "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I meant to pay you. I'm going to go ahead and, can I send it to this email address?" And I replied, "Yes, that would be great. Thank you." And I never heard from them. I never received any money. The next week I emailed them again and I was like, "Hey, could I have those funds?" And it was just excuse after excuse. "Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I forgot. I'm out and about right now. I'll send that to you tonight." And they wouldn't. And on. This probably went on maybe 5-6 times. We were well past 30 days past the event. And I was completely believing that this person wanted me to just forget about it and not get paid. But instead, I called the volunteer lawyers for the arts in Chicago and explained to them what happened. Now, the mistake I made was I didn't have a contract made specifically for this collaboration that we were doing. I have some legal jargon I use for my commissions and things like that, but for this project, I didn't have something written up. I had worked with them before. I thought, oh, they're good for it. They were really straight up last time. This should be fine. And so I called the lawyers for the creative arts and we had a conversation, and they explained to me that, I should have had a contract, of course. But they also said that they could help me with some correspondence to the person. And in doing so, I was able to present that to the organization that wasn't paying me, and that was enough to light the flame under them to go ahead and pay me the amount that I was due. And the fee that I was charged, I believe, was $20 or $25 to use the lawyer. That was it. And that was way less than what I was owed by the client. So it was definitely worth the effort and the time. Now, when this whole situation happened to me, I was talking to other artists that I know, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, that's happened to me. Oh, yes, I have clients who haven't paid me before." They're so kind. They're like, "Oh, well, maybe that person, in company is having a rough time right now. Maybe that client needs, more time." And I was like, then they should just tell me instead of stringing me along saying that they needed they didn't tell me they needed an extension. They just kept stringing me along saying that they were going to pay me, and they never did. I felt it was worth fighting and standing up for myself as an artist. And I think it's important because, not every, even if I could have swung that job happening and not being paid for it, there are many other artists out there who wouldn't have that luxury, right? And I want to see as many artists as possible be able to make a living with their art, because art is communication and I want to hear their voices. So the only way that can happen is if all artists demand that they get paid and treated fairly for the work that they're creating. There's a reason why these clients and organizations want to work with us and they need our imagery. I called the same lawyer organization again when the AI image generation situation happened. So in case you don't know, with that, I found out that over 50 images of my artwork were being used to train for-profit AI image generators. And it was against my consent and I was not paid. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to give away the product of my business for free to develop the product of another for-profit business. And to be clear, I'm not necessarily against the technology. I'm against it being used unethically and my artwork being forced to be included as part of that when I don't want it to be. So when this situation happened, I called on Lawyers for the Arts. I think it cost me $40 for like a 2-hour phone call with a lawyer from them. I explained the situation. To my surprise, I was the first artist in Illinois to contact them about this situation. And I know for sure that there were several other artists in Illinois who had this happen and impact them as well. So I was really surprised and kind of disappointed that no other artists had reached out to them to find out what their legal rights were. What they did was they were like, yes, you have a case. And what they do then is they create a description of the situation and the case, which I then read over and approved. And that was then posted, available to all the lawyers in their network. After a couple of weeks, I got an email from them saying that a lawyer was interested in picking up the case. It was an intellectual property lawyer in Chicago with a ton of experience in really big cases that they had done in the past. So we contacted each other and we spoke, and this one was for free. And at this point, I think like a day or two before our phone call, I had learned that there was a class action lawsuit that had been filed by artists against the AI companies. So for me, that was like, cool, that's enough. I'm not looking to make money. I'm looking to protect my artwork. And so to me, being just part of the class action lawsuit was enough to make me feel like I was being active. I don't need to repeat their effort. I'd rather support it. But I still spoke with the lawyer, and the lawyer explained that a couple things to me. One, they likened the situation to like a smoothie shop where these AI companies have the blenders in the storefront, but all of the ingredients were stolen by artists. And another thing they had brought up was that I retain the right to how my work is reproduced. And by taking my picture, my image, and replicating it into their data set was a form of replication. And that was something that I didn't consent to. That phone call with that IP lawyer was free. It didn't cost me anything. That was just some time to sort of figure out and learn more about what my rights are. You know, is this a case that's not going to happen? You know, and they were definitely in the belief that, you know, this is a really complicated case and that it's going to take years for it to get figured out. But they were able to give me some of those pointers, and they were able to, or explanations, and they were able to, you know, explain more to me about my rights and what I can do to protect myself. So I highly recommend, if you're an artist out there, find the local nonprofit arts lawyers in your area. Here in the United States, if you go to a website called VLANY, so that's Volunteer Lawyers for the Arts, and they're located in New York, so VLANY.org. They have a national directory of volunteer lawyers for the arts. And so if you're ever found, you know, in a situation like I have been, and I know I'm not alone, where you have a client who doesn't pay you, or you see your artwork being, you know, copied by someone or being reproduced in a way that you didn't want it to be, definitely contact them. And it's, like I said, it cost me, for our lawyers here in Illinois, it cost me between $20, $25 to like speak with them. It really didn't cost that much for me to understand where I stood legally, what I can do to prevent situations like that from happening in the future. And I was able to get the payment that I needed. So I highly recommend it. Look into it. Don't think just because you're a small independent artist that you don't have rights. You do have rights, and it's important that you protect them, because not just for yourself, but for all of the other artists, we need to make it clear to these clients that we are not cool with not being paid for stuff, and that if we aren't paid, we're going to act like any other normal business would, and we would seek legal advice. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and drawing with me today, and I hope you have a good one.